Are you truly living the life you want? I'm not asking if you're happy or doing well in life. I'm asking if you're honestly living the life you desire. If that made you pause, well, you have your answer. I've been there too. But you know what's crazy? We keep on doing the same things and expect different results. Like thinking that the next job, purchase, or relationship is the missing ingredient that's preventing us from living our rich, fulfilled, and happy lives. It reminds me of the line from Far Cry 3 when Vaas says, "Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is?" Insanity is doing the exact same thing over and over again, expecting something to change. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Lakan and I share what helps us live a better life today and an even better life tomorrow. So what prevents us from making these changes? Well, it's our paradigm, the invisible lens running your life. It explains why people in the same environments with access to the same opportunities can end up living vastly different lives and achieving different results. Think about it. Two brothers living in the same home with the same parents, and they have a father who is an abusive alcoholic. They live through the same nights, the shouting, glass breaking, and that uneasy silence that follows. Yet years later, their lives couldn't be more different. The eldest, despite swearing to be different, becomes angry and volatile, just like the man he once despised. But the younger, he breaks the cycle completely, building a life rooted in calm, compassion, and stability. When asked why, the elder says, "With a father like that, what choice did I have?" And the youngest, he replies, "With a father like that, how could I be anything else?" But why? Well, it's because they lived in different realities through two very different paradigms. So a paradigm is an internal map we've built through beliefs, experiences, and assumptions. It acts as an invisible lens through which we see life. It's why we can never see reality as it truly is. We only see reality as we are. And that paradigm decides what you notice, ignore, or believe is possible. In childhood, our paradigms are inherited from our parents, culture, or faith. As we grow older, new voices start influencing our paradigms like friends, colleagues, and now even social media. The people and environments we spend more time with have a greater influence in shaping our paradigms that form our perceptions, how we see, criticize, and judge ourselves, others, and success. Eventually, what influences our paradigms depends entirely on what our lives are centered around. Dr. Stephen Covey best explains these centers in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which I'll unpack in another video. But from my experience, these centers are largely consolidated into 3 main buckets. Relationships, where you organize your life around people and connection. Spouse, family, friends, community, driven by belonging and care, aiming for trust, support, and shared purpose. Second, status, where you position life around achievement, recognition, and perception. Role, results, assets, money. Driven by ambition, competitiveness, and influence, aiming for credibility, impact, and power. Third, self, where you orient life around your own preferences and feelings with little regard for others, designing days to maximize enjoyment, comfort, and self expression, driven by egotism, personal preferences, and pleasure, aiming for personal control and free will, not to be mistaken with freedom. Here's the problem: if your internal map was designed for London, you can't use it to navigate New York. You might tell yourself that you just need to grind more, stay positive, or you may say that the system is working against you. But unless you change your paradigm, you'll always be lost. To achieve different results, you need a paradigm shift. That's what fuels real breakthroughs, not just in science, but in life. Thomas Kuhn, a world-renowned physicist turned philosopher, coined this term paradigm shift to describe moments when old scientific models collapse and entirely new ways of understanding takes their place. And that is what needs to happen when we really want to grow and achieve different results. Growth is less about adding and more about outgrowing how you currently see. So how do we actually shift our paradigms? Well, it starts by recognizing that you can't just think or wish your way into a new reality. You have to rebuild it from within. And that means moving away from those unstable centers, relationships, status, and self, and instead grounding yourself in something that doesn't change with circumstances. That being principles. Principles are not opinions or beliefs. They're universal truths that withstand the test of time. You can ignore them, but you can't avoid their consequences. Your paradigm determines your behavior, but principles, they determine the outcome of that behavior. To begin, you need to understand your current paradigm by identifying what your current centers are. Ask yourself, what drives or influences my decisions? A quick test is to remove one thing like your family, job, or image. Whatever shakes you most is probably what you are centered on. For example, my centers were money, work, possessions, and self, mostly tied with the status bucket. The next step is to decide which principles you want to build your life around. These form the foundation for your new paradigm. Whatever they are, they need to be aligned with how you truly want to live, not the one you've been conditioned to chase. However, these principles need to be built upon 5 core values. These are values that are non-negotiable, regardless of the circumstance or pressures you may be facing. For example, the values that I've implemented since my mirror moment has been authenticity, curiosity, empowerment, abundance, and generosity. I call this my personal value system, which I'll also unpack in another video. Lastly, you realign your life towards those principles. Be intentional. Every thought, feeling, and action should reflect your principles and values. At first, it may feel unnatural, like walking on a new path in the dark. But the more you choose it, the more it lights up and eventually becomes the way you move through the world. That's how real change happens, not by forcing behavior, but by updating this internal map that drives it. Am I saying that you have to change your paradigm? Well, not at all. Perhaps your current paradigm already empowers you to live your best life. However, I am saying that we should all be aware of our paradigms and understand what influences it. When your paradigm aligns with your principles and personal values, the lens through which you see life becomes clearer. You stop living reactively and you start living proactively. And in these moments, you realize that it was never the world that was holding you back. It was you, your paradigm. Now, some people may argue that all of this is overly complicated, that you don't need a paradigm shift. You just need to take action, stay disciplined, build good habits, and keep moving forward. And to be fair, there's some truth in that. Consistent actions does produce results. Others may say that focusing on principles is too philosophical, that success is about adaptability and not rigid rules. In their view, life is unpredictable, and what might work for one person may not work for the other. So instead of following timeless principles, they argue that you should just do what's practical in the moment. Both of these people aren't entirely wrong. These approaches can work, but only for a while or up until a certain point. Here's the truth. Action alone can only move you forward, but it really changes the direction you're going. You can wake up earlier, plan better, or work harder. But if you're still seeing through the same paradigm, you'll just recreate the same results, just in a different way. Like trying to get rich by working harder, but still believing that the system or your circumstances are working against you. No matter how much of effort you put in, your mindset keeps you poor. But let me know what's worked for you. Has discipline, habits, and adaptability helped you more than changing your paradigm or mindset? Share your experience in the comments below. So, if there's one thing to remember, it's this. Your paradigm is the silent architect of your life. It shapes what you see, how you think, and the results you get. You can change your job, your goals, and even your surroundings. But unless you change the lens through which you see, you'll just keep repeating the same cycles whilst expecting something else. Insanity. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this. Real transformation begins when you shift your paradigm from being influenced by unstable centers to one built on timeless principles and personal values. That's when things finally start to align. Your thoughts, your choices, the results, and the kind of person you want to be. And that's what it's all about, living your best life today and an even better life tomorrow.